International news now. Let's get an update on the war in Ukraine, which is entering its fourth month soon. Can you believe it? We're joined by our correspondent, Chris Jones, in Riga in Latvia. Chris, I wonder if you could just start by just giving us an overall picture on where we are after nearly 3 months of fighting. Where are the areas of fighting most intensified currently?
Yeah, you're right. We're almost entering our fourth month, 84 days, and really there's no sign of a ceasefire in sight at the moment. We heard over the past few days that negotiations had been going on between Ukraine and Russia, as they have been really since the start of this war. Both are still blaming each other for the ceasefire attempts not being agreed on, I suppose you could say. There is some fighting still going on in the Donbass region. That's where Russia is really aiming its forces now, because of course, remember, it's been pushed out of Kharkiv, the second city, also called a fortress, and the Institute for the Study of War says that they've even been pushed as far back as the borders. So we're in a kind of stalemate phase, it seems. There is some battling going on, but the Ministry of Defence from the UK basically says that because of decreased morale and decreased mobility, we're unlikely to see Russia really make any advancement in the next month or so.
There's been quite a lot of focus in the past week on the steel plant at Mariupol, and we know that there were evacuations. Some of the fighters were leaving that area. There's talk of troop surrenders and troop exchange. Just talk us through that.
Yeah, that's right. We've heard that troops are leaving the Azovstal steel plant over the past week or so. Russia says that over the past 24 hours, 700 have left the steel plant. That brings the 1,700. It says that those troops have been taken to Russian-owned towns as prisoners of war, and those that need health care have been taken to hospitals. Now, of course, there's some concern over the future of these Ukrainian soldiers. The International Committee of the Red Cross, though, says that there has been details given of those Ukrainian soldiers, and it also said it cited the rules under the Geneva Conventions and said that those the organisation should be allowed to interview prisoners of war without witnesses, and that visits with them should not be unduly restricted. And of course, as I say, there's concern over their future. Russia has branded some of these soldiers Nazi war criminals and says that they should be put on trial, even as far as saying some should be executed. Now, you can imagine Ukraine's response to that. They're unhappy with what Russia is saying about them. They've branded the soldiers that have come out as heroes and hope that there still can be some kind of exchange between already captured Russian troops. As of yet, though, no agreement has been made between Ukraine and Russia.
Talk to us about the global response. We've seen intensified sanctions on Russia. We've also seen Finland and Sweden saying they really want to join NATO, because once you join NATO, if your country is invaded, you've got the rest of NATO to back you up. And this is one of the reasons why Ukraine is so very isolated. Turkey seems to be standing in the way of that. Just talk to us about the state of play in terms of the global response to this war.
Well, we've seen the West really rise up in support for Ukraine. Only recently we've seen the US embassy reopen in Kyiv. That's a big moment because it shows that the West is really investing in Ukraine and feels it's safe enough now to plant its ambassadors back in the country, which will help give more concise intelligence to the Ukrainian government. But just on NATO, we've seen Finland and Sweden, of course, put in that official application to join the NATO military alliance. President Biden has said not long ago that he supports their move to move into the alliance. He said that NATO's more important than ever, and we've also seen Norway back the two countries. That says that if the two were to join NATO, then that would increase safety in the Nordic region and prevent the chances of war. Now, Russia says that it doesn't have any hostile intentions towards Finland. However, if it were to join NATO, and NATO were to start to move its military infrastructure into those two countries, then it would act accordingly. And as you've mentioned there, of course, there's still the hurdle of Turkey to go. Turkey says that Finland and Sweden have relaxed approaches to what they call militant Kurdish groups such as the PKK, and has ordered them to back down from that kind of stance if they were to join NATO. So the whole situation's a little bit all over the place at the moment, and there are stepping stones to go. But as Biden says, he's pretty confident that Sweden and Finland can join NATO in the coming months or so.
Of course, we've seen the global impact of this war. We've seen prices going up. Great concerns about wheat, for example. We've seen the price of sunflower oil here in South Africa going up in recent months. And there's real concern about global food supply as this war drags on. What are the international authorities saying about the realities of food supply globally?
Yeah, well, it's got to change, hasn't it? And really, this is quite a significant problem. We're seeing countries all over the world suffering because of lack of sunflower oil and lack of wheat supply for basic necessities. We've seen families all over the world. From the UK, where I'm from, families are struggling to buy necessities, the most vulnerable, that is. And really, what the world is trying to do is trying to speak to the authorities to make that change. Now, we have seen a setback in what could go forward over the past few weeks or so, and that's with the capture of Mariupol. Of course, that now gives Russia complete access to the Black Sea, and the Black Sea was a key export route for Ukraine. That whole area is blocked now, so the world's kind of infrastructure is trying to speak to Russia and trying to organise ways for Ukraine to get those kind of supplies in terms of sunflower oil and wheat out, so that food shortages and food prices can come down ultimately.
Thank you so much for that update this evening, the far-reaching implications of the war in Ukraine. That's Chris Jones, our correspondent in Riga in Latvia this evening. Still to